Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So this is part 2 of Fashion Month series, my thoughts, feelings and opinions on Fashion Month. Link below to see part 1, which basically sums up and recaps New York Fashion Week, London Fashion Week and Milan. Today is gonna be all about Paris Fashion Week, just because there was a lot of debuts, there was a lot to talk about. Paris Fashion Week is obviously considered the fashion week of all fashion weeks, so we saw even more attendance of celebrities. And yeah, so let's get into it. I'm a little ill this weekend, so I am drinking mint tea with honey. I do also want to throw a disclaimer that at the time of this recording and at the time this video probably goes live, Fashion Week and Fashion Month is still not over. I am recording this as late as humanly possible, but obviously I wanted to get this out to everyone on usual scheduled programming, you know? So anyways, at the time of this recording, the following shows have not taken place. So Valentino, Jean Paul Gaultier, Chloe, McQueen, Coperni, Miu Miu, Zimmermann, Thom Browne, Chanel, loads more others, but these are just the most box standard, well-known brands. Personal favorites is I'm very interested to see what Michele does at Valentino again. Very interested to see McQueen. Obviously, one of my personal favorite brands, Thom Browne, has been dominating the red carpets, and their shows the past few years have been phenomenal. So very interesting for that one. Coperni obviously been very interesting, using Kylie Jenner and closing the last few seasons. So that'll be really, really interesting. But apart from that, let's get into the ones that have happened. Right, I'm gonna put my glasses on because I am blind. So yeah, these are some of my notes, feelings, thoughts, feelings and opinions on this Paris week. I feel like Paris week, Paris month, fashion weeks are just getting longer and longer and longer. It's very hard to watch every single show while also doing a full-time job, so which I haven't necessarily been doing. I've done for, you know, the big ones, Dior. I did try and watch the runway show live, but obviously they were late and then I had a meeting, so I could only watch not the live, but whatever, it is what it is, you know. I feel like we spend a lot more time waiting for the shows to take place than we actually do watching the show. Again, there's too many to talk about, so we're just going to do the big names and just some of my personal favorites, or just some interesting. I would say 2 overall arching themes that I have seen from Paris Fashion Week, with again being the ones that I have looked into and I have analyzed. And that being very vibrant colors and earthy. So I feel like brands are either doing a lot of color blocking, a lot of vibrant colors, or they're doing a bit more earthy tones, a bit more neutrals. So let's start with the first one. Obviously, Saint Laurent did a gorgeous runway show closing the first night of Paris Fashion Week. Big names are always in attendance. Personally, I would love to see Hailey Bieber not fly in and fly out just for the Saint Laurent show, but obviously she's a YSL girl, so she has no real obligation to do anything but that. But I'd like to see her back on the runway, or I'd like to see her attend more shows than just a Saint Laurent show. The show overall had a very romantic, I mean the set itself was just a beautiful like maze. It instantly transported me to like some aristocratic house. I loved it. Similar to the last few Fashion Week that we have seen in London, New York and Milan. A lot of white this season, so this is carrying into the Paris Fashion Weeks. So in YSL, almost 20% was white, 100% bold earrings, so that was a very interesting point, and about 48% leather. So you know, that kind of just gives you some pointers and some markers for that one. I'm gonna do them a little quick just because I feel like we have so many designers to go through and I really did cut them down, so kind of just rapid fire with this one. Stella McCartney, a lot of feathers, a lot of layers, a lot of draping. Almost 20% of the show was just draping. Again, still, you know, tailoring in the right places, tailoring where it needs to be tailored. I loved it. I really love how Stella McCartney can basically do what everyone is already doing but make it vegan and cruelty free. So I think that is really cool from her consistently every single year. Again, if you reference my last week's video, I'm very firm on my belief of London designers to show in London and New York designers to show in New York. So Stella McCartney, you are one of them. You are a London girl. I don't know why you show in Paris. Anyway, moving on. Dior, I think, was one of the most anticipated shows of the entire season, and boy did he not disappoint. I mean, Jonathan Anderson is its own species. I feel like in 20 years time we're already analysing him and studying him, but he will go down in history, and in 20 years time we'll be talking about how he did it all, literally and figuratively. He has done it all. Very gorgeous. Again, unfortunately I had to have a meeting, so I kind of did miss it, but it was very gorgeous. I love the links and the subtle references that he does between the men's and the women's runway shows. I think the cohesiveness, the connections between the different runway shows is just gorgeous, and it just shows that he leaves no stone unturned, if that's the right phrase. He really just thinks of it all, and yeah, honestly, speechless. And then about 18% of that was white. So again, white really is a dominating color. And about, oh my god, I really can't read my handwriting. 46% in mini skirts or mini dresses, 30% bows, 27% volume. So a lot of bows, a lot of bow ties, quite high necks. And I really loved that there was such a equal balance between feminism and masculinity within all the looks. It was really just a gorgeous show. I mean, I think it's Dior, so it's always going to be a gorgeous show, and Dior himself left such a legacy. So I think no matter who takes on the step of the role as the creative director / designer, got a lot of boots to fill, but also just so much archival stuff to go and look at. And I think almost everything he showed was his own take on some iconic pieces and some classic pieces, and just really good referencing. I mean, the references to the bow ties and the Miss Dior fragrances, it was there, it was gorgeous, it was all thought out, and I absolutely loved it. This one, Tom Ford. Haider Ackermann, one of my personal favorite designers, creative thinkers, stylists. Just, he always consistently does differently. I mean, I remember when he did Kylie Jenner's Met, and everyone was just like, oh my god, what is this? But it was just the people who get the reference, and just, you know, everyone at that Met was wearing black and white for Chanel, and Kylie wore red. And that was Ackermann's decision, and he thinks so out the box, and he just thinks so differently and uniquely, and I absolutely love him for that. I love everything he does. I mean, the fact that he is now creative director or something for Canada Goose, and then goes ahead, and Canada Goose is winter coats, but no, Ackermann goes and shoots Canada Goose coats in the desert. I mean, just... it doesn't, yeah, I loved it. But in terms of the runway show, It felt very 90s Tom Ford. It felt very nostalgic, but it also felt extremely futuristic. It was very cool. There was, again, 15% of the color was white, 11% were bold colors, so it was either white, black, or bold color, and I loved it. I loved the bold pantsuits. I probably would never wear a lime green suit, but it was gorgeous. I mean, down to the styling, the makeup, the hair, everything was just so Ackerman, and I loved it. On to the next page. I really can't read my handwriting, and it is so bad. So Balmain to me was very earthy, which kind of goes back to the overarching themes that I mentioned at the beginning. It felt very earthy. It honestly felt like, I wrote down my notes, it felt Indiana Jones meets Dune. I think that's quite a good reference. It felt very, yeah, very Indiana Jones meets Dune. It felt very earthy tones, kind of very draping. It felt like they were in the desert. It felt like they were Minecrafting Lara Croft, kind of like, it just felt like that. So it felt, you know, because of the earthy color tones and the browns, it felt very calming. I mean, compared to the other shows, it just felt very, I don't know, it felt like its own world. It felt very calming, very, you know, it felt, yeah, it felt like almost meditative compared to the other shows. I loved the reference to Taylor's sand dress from the Met. Whether that dress influenced the entire collection or just the tops that he did was just a reference to it. It kind of feel like that dress sparked the inspiration and the designs for this collection, but it could go either way, I don't know. But yeah, I thoroughly loved it. And he's always Balmain's always a very beautiful collection, and it always just, I don't know, it always just leaves me very happy. The show consistently just always leaves me very happy, and sometimes I'm like, I've never not watched a Balmain show and not been like, I need a minute to think about what I've just watched, because it is always so beautiful. It is always like, it is, you know, just everything he does is just amazing. Mugler, also very earthy compared to what it normally is, which is a very kind of dark feminism, sexiness. So that was an interesting change. I felt the sand kind of brown color honestly felt like it was almost 48% of the show. It did, because of that, I then have just a different, you know, direction, but it felt very felt very tame in comparison to some of the other shows. It did feel very just not as sexy, not as slutty, not as like powerful. Rick Owens, I love Rick Owens. Rick Owens is his own world. I mean, I don't know why Rick Owens shows in Paris Fashion Week, but he is his own world. I mean, it is so refreshing and different, and you cannot compare Rick Owens to any other designer in the game right now. Again, a lot of white, well, not a lot for Rick Owens, but 8% of white on the runway show. So white really is dominating the season. So it'll be really nice to see. I love the fact that Rick Owens consistently uses stairs in his runway, because a model will always fall, a model will always trip. He has the highest heels and the tightest dresses and the most amount of steps, and he loves to challenge his models. So yeah, that's always a funny one for me. I always look for a model falling, because there is always one. The next one, Schiaparelli, just speechless as always. I mean, the fact that his shows are so beautiful, but some of the pieces are so avant-garde, and it's not even couture week. It just, you know, he's on his own level. But I will say Schiaparelli really is one of those shows that you watch it and it is gorgeous, but there's just too much to look at. So I'll watch the show and then I'll look out for the images that come out and that are released, and that's when I really do like a deep dive and I go and I really analyze all pictures, because each piece that is sent down the runway, it's beautiful in itself. Like the whole look is just jaw-dropping, but when you zoom in and you look at the detail, or you look at what it's actually made of, like paintbrush ends, or you know, it's just, that's when you see the beautiness and the like holy fuck moments of Schiaparelli, is when you really do analyze and see more of a close-up, you know. I mean, Kendall Jenner looked gorgeous as always, but her dress zoomed up on the detail is just on another level, you know. Again, feathers dominating as an accessory or just like a piece. I mean, there was 12% feathers, 22% floor length dresses, which relates back to the hemline theory, which I'm very interested to see that theory coming about, whether it will or will not happen. Slim tailoring about 34%, and metallics around 25% of the runway show. So again, very interesting, quite interesting data in my personal opinion. Isabel Marant, love Isabel Marant. Girl. What I love the most is that this was a new designer. It was her first collection. Isabel Marant is still working at the brand. She's working more on the behind the scenes, so I don't know how much of a voice she does have nowadays, if that makes sense. But this just felt like it was a new designer, but it wasn't a new voice, and I really loved that. It very much, this season specifically, has very much been musical chairs in terms of designers. Everyone just leaving the one and going to the other, and so it's felt very like that. But and you know, Demna bringing in his own take to Gucci, and Alexander Michele doing his own vibe, you know. And I think that's great, but I think, you know, you come to the brand, stick with the brand, you know, and I think that's why I didn't really like Demna at Balenciaga, because it was such a complete contrast to what Balenciaga did. And yes, it was a stuffy old house, but yeah, so in not to go into a whole other rant, because I could talk about that for another like 30-40 fucking minutes, I love the fact that this was this new designer but the same voice. It just felt Isabel Marant. It didn't feel like there was a new designer. Also very much with the earthy tones. I loved it. It felt very like this is gonna be like, it felt very Isabel Marant is the ultimate cool, like real European cool girl brand. It just felt sun-kissed. It just felt from the beach to the club, back to the beach, no sleep, like I'm gonna sleep at the beach, messy hair. It just felt ultimate cool girl summer, and I love it. I loved it. I mean, Isabel Marant has always been very cool, very chic, you know, the ultimate summer Parisian girl, but this collection really did excite me. I didn't like it. Loewe, another very anticipated runway show, another very anticipated debut, but Loewe has, I think everyone can categorically agree that Loewe has, they're in good hands. They're gonna do great. They're gonna do fine. They don't need Jonathan Anderson, you know. He came, he went, he left, you know, he made his mark and he's left, but the brand is in good hands. It is very exciting to see Loewe is still Loewe. Always just a very cool brand to see. A lot of asymmetrical, a lot of colors. So this is all basically just stats. So 16% white again, so white's still very much dominating almost every runway show. Yellow percent, Yellow about 90%, bold colors 54%, leather 46%, tailoring 30%. So yeah, very colorful, very bold, very fun, asymmetrical, tailoring in the right places. And yeah, very, very cool. Next brand I just want to quickly mention is Vetiments. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. Vetiments, it sounds like vitamins, but Vetiments, personally, as a Jew, I love the no swastika tops. I love the opening of that. That was quite nice to see as an anti-swastika shirt. What it actually means, I don't know, but personally that gives me a little bit of hope. It's always very cool. It's a very cool brand to look at. Very futuristic, grungy, cool, you know. It's always a cool show. It's always fun. It feels very youthful always. Inoki was crying at the end. I don't know why, to be honest. We had to fully figure that out. I don't know if it was she was so come from the dress and the music and the atmosphere, or she was just going through something. I'm yet to find that information out, but she was in a gorgeous dress, so if she was crying because the dress was so gorgeous, I would understand, because I would cry if I was wearing that dress. But yeah, so that was very interesting to me as a side note. But moving on, Victoria Beckham. I always love looking at Victoria Beckham, and again, she's a London designer, she should show in London, but apart from that, I always love her stuff. I didn't love the shoes, to be honest. Love the dresses. I always really look out for the suits because I think she does really cool suits. These suits seemed a bit more relaxed compared to the last season, but again, still fine tailoring, tailoring in the right places. The dresses, normally it's the suits that leave me speechless, but the dresses this show just absolutely took my breath away. I mean, just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous dresses. I have 2 more pages of notes. I can't remember how long this has been already, but I'm trying to get through it. I feel like I'm racing, but not at the same time. Alaya, the next show I want to talk about is Alaya. I love Alaya. Alaya is one of those brands that I always look to of how to be more fun, more abstract with my outfits, just more interesting, not just a black top and black tracks. Like, I always really look at Alaya. Alaya has really cool, fun, avant-garde pieces. Some things I'm like, it's a bit too odd for me to wear, but it's a good level for me to be experimental, but also like my business casual vibe, because I would say my go-to style is sexy business casual, to be honest. So that's why I always like to look at Victoria Beckham and, you know, those kind of Ferragamo, that kind of stuff. But Alaya is one that always does make me think to be a bit more fun and a bit more expressive. Again, 12% white, so white really, 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 really dominating. Mason Margiela, I don't really want to talk about that too much, to be honest. I mean, Mason Margiela, an interesting show, always an interesting brand to look at. I don't know. I don't know, in a weird way, it just seemed a lot more boring than some of the other runway shows. I think what Galliano and Pat McGrath did a couple of years ago is just untouchable, so I think a lot of people compare that show to like any show that they do to that show. So yeah, I mean, we were too spoiled at that point, so yeah, this show did seem a bit boring compared to that. But the mouth guards, I don't know how I feel about the mouth guards. I don't know what message it's trying to say of we should open our mouths, we should constrain our mouths, we should speak up more, we should not speak up more. I definitely think there was a meaning behind it. It made me a bit uncomfortable. I think that was the point, to make people uncomfortable, but it felt, yeah, so it kind of felt like asylum people, like in those olden day asylum houses. It felt like kind of that vibe, but it also just, I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know what I think about it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That one just left me quite stumped, to be honest. Yeah, it was a bit weird. There's definitely meaning to it. I'm yet to try figure it out, but yeah, it was definitely interesting. And the last one I want to talk about is Balenciaga. Now, again, another hugely anticipated debut for Pachilo. I don't know how to say any of these names. This is why I haven't really said any of the names, because I'm gonna botch them. But he is one of my favorite designers. I absolutely loved what he did at Valentino. I cried, I mourned. So another very anticipated debut. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. It felt Valentino. It felt like him. It felt like it was the revival of Balenciaga. It felt like it was still youthful, kind of not deluding and not disregarding anything that Demna's done, but it really took references to designs and outfits and garments created prior to Demna at Balenciaga, and it just felt like a revival of that. It felt sweet, it felt feminine, not too aggressive. It felt like Balenciaga. It felt like him at Balenciaga, and I loved that. I really loved it. Again, just some data: 11% of white, so still very much dominating. 48% black, so there wasn't a lot of color, but when they were colored, there was color. But yeah, a lot of black and a lot of white, so a lot of volume as well. 25% of it was volume. 10% were feathers or feather-like materials. And 30% of crop tops. So they really did say crop tops are back. So that'll be interesting for next summer. But what I absolutely loved, my personal favorite, were the shoes, and specifically the sandals. I absolutely loved the sandals. Their sandals felt big and wide and chunky, but also just slim and elegant. I absolutely loved them. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I think a runway show is happening right now, if it's not late. Let's see. Okay, so Valentino is live, but the show hasn't actually started. People are still walking in and walking up to Valentino. That's Dominion Coleman. I love him, love his acting. I'm so bad with names, so whatever his name is. So yeah, people are still rocking up, so I can't necessarily give you a rundown on Valentino yet, but based on what they did last year, I'm not looking forward to it. But so yeah, it's about to start, so I think I'm gonna call the video there for a day. If the last few shows of today and tomorrow and Tuesday are worth reporting on, I will create a third video to talk about those. But if not, don't worry, there'll be another video out instead. So until then, I'll see you guys later. Bye.